Welcome to Catapult Leaders Conversation with Leaders. Listen in and take note as Catapult Leaders CEO Daryl Mobley chats with David Thomas about the power of networking in your career. David Thomas is Chairman and CEO of Scarlet Imaging LLC.
I am thrilled once again to be with my friend David Thomas. Today we're going to talk about my belief that your net worth is equal to your network. Let me say that again. Your net worth is equal to your network. And networking is something that we each have a responsibility for, no matter where you are in your career. And today I can think of no one better to talk to about this than Dave, because he certainly, he may be the finest networker that I have ever known. And I want to dig into his brain today with some powerful questions. So Dave, are you ready?
I am absolutely ready, and I appreciate the billing. And some of my classmates from school kind of needle me for that, but it is something that I enjoy doing. So what I can say is, well, unbeknownst to me, now looking back at my career, this is the single most important component to my success. I believe you can never know too many people. You know, there's a saying that it's not what you know, it's who you know. I would start with friends, family, classmates, fraternity brothers, sorority sisters from school, as they are an extraordinary source of information you need to know. In fact, there are many ways how you find jobs you want, because they either are the contact or the influence to help you get them, or to accomplish certain tasks you're trying to fulfill. One thing I can say is I have been so proud and amazed at how many classmates of mine from West Point have helped nurture my career or connected me to the people I need to get something done. Unfortunately, while you're there, you don't realize the power of that until later on in your career. My advice is jump on that early in your career and leverage it. And I'll speak a little bit to the culmination of some of these things you learn over time and this broad network that you can grow. I'll give you an example around this. So I'm actually on the advisory board for erecting a new Buffalo Soldier monument at West Point. Most of my role has been to find donors to help support the project. And I want to talk about how monumental this is. The current monument to Buffalo Soldiers is almost an afterthought to a group of extraordinary, laudable soldiers who have a beautiful and wonderful history in our nation's military, almost like the Red Tails that you saw that we know with Benjamin Davis,
Exactly.
B.L. Davis Jr.
Yep.
But it requires a great leader like General Fred Gordon, who is the first Black commandant, to put this team together, and he knew what he needed. And I was kind of the guy that helped become innovative, as well as help support finding ways to get donations to do this. And so we sought donations from a lot of different sources. And it was that network that allowed us and their networks to reach out and find the kind of folks that could truly help us get to our goal of $1 million to do this thing. Now we're just shy of about 75,000 or so on it. But the fact is that it's near completion. It's an extraordinary tribute to their legacy. And it's because of these networks we created over years of nurturing. And in fact, one of my classmates, a very powerful player in the pharmaceutical industry, has supported our team aggressively to accumulate funds. And so what I would say to you is that the concept of understanding that knowing more people and talking to them can help you. I'm going to give you a little story, because you might not ever know where you're going to get these blessings. There's a book by a guy by the name of Jeffrey Fox on how to be a great boss. And he tells the story of this guy who is Yale, Harvard kind of attorney, Ivy League powerhouse. And he has his team of like type background associates. And they have a case that they're trying to handle. And this guy murdered somebody. And this guy was a believer that he talked and listened to everybody because he nurtured relationships. And they had just gone to court, gotten their butts kicked, and they were coming back in the building. And he says, y'all go on up and continue to work on how we're going to create a strategy for defending this guy. And he goes, I'm going to go talk to Mrs. Maladewski. Well, Mrs. Maladewski was the cleaning woman. And of course, they're looking at, what in the world are you doing wasting, this is their thinking, wasting your time with the cleaning woman. We're trying to save this man's life. And so he sat down with Mrs. Maladewski, as he ordinarily did, just to check in on her, yada, yada, yada. And he starts telling her about this case. Now, Mrs. Maladewski is not an Ivy League trained lawyer, et cetera, et cetera. But she says to him, well, you know, these kids, they get all crazy in the head on drugs and make really bad mistakes and bad decisions. And boom, these guys were busy looking for the textbook approach to defending this man, and they couldn't find one. And this woman offered up a solution because they researched it and they found that he was on drugs and he had been hallucinating, and it caused him to behave in a way he shouldn't have. And they got the man off. But later on, the state disallowed those kind of defenses in the future. Mm-hmm. But my point is that if you grow your network wide and deep and you reach out to them on a regular basis and talk to them, you never know when you're going to need them and when they may help you with something you didn't even know they could. Mm-hmm. And so I always tell people, never dismiss anyone, even people you don't like, because at some point they can be an ally for something you need. And, you know, I always tell people, whether you're leaving a company on a good basis or bad basis, do not burn any bridges.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I used to tell people never do that, because I used to see this when I worked at McDonald's. You know, some people who were just blasting to the top, and then they kind of plateau, and they kind of didn't do nice things to folks on their way up there. And then someone else who was on the end of some of that now is in a higher role that they're in, and this person is now coming to them looking for a job. And it's sort of like a small world. The comedian Robin Harris used to say, small world. So the issue is that I use the term, be open. Be open to learn from anyone, even your own children. Children don't sanitize what they see and hear, because they're not taught to. They just parrot what you say and do. And sometimes they will tell you that you're a jerk or the way you did something wasn't too cool, because that's how they know to talk. And on the flip side, you could be talking to someone who's 88 years old, who's recanting some things that they did in their life, and boom, they will give you a nugget that leaves you with a great idea on how you can pursue a new idea. And so my experience is, let everyone under the tent nurture their knowledge, their network, so that you can leverage all that talent and do the things you want to do. And so building your networks and making it an integral part of your plan will instrumentally change the way that you are able to function.
Wow, very nice. That leads me to ask you a question, because I want to hear your thoughts on this. When I say your net worth is equal to your network, what does that mean to you?
It means that I believe everybody has value, and there is good in everyone, and you have to seek it out. There's knowledge in everyone, but you have to seek it out. And so what it means to me is never be afraid to engage someone that you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly engage the people you do know and try and learn something from them. When I go to work and do things, I try and learn something new from someone every day,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know when they are saying or doing something that you just never thought of.
Wow.
And in a world of problem solving, having a myriad of ideas and choices and successes that you've heard about, experienced on your own, or know about, allows you to use that to potentially take several ideas together and make an innovative solution that no one else could have thought of, because they wouldn't have been exposed and been able to capture all those things to come up with the solution that you do.
You are listening to a Catapult Leaders podcast. For more information, visit catapultleaders.com.
You know what's interesting? I've done a lot of work in the area of networking and everything for many a year now. And your explanation and your view of networking, how you've used it, down to a granular level, why it's important, all those things is easily the best discussion or talk or whatever about networking that I've ever had. And I think it's because, among other things, other than you being able to communicate, it's authentic. I mean, you have done this stuff and you're doing it and you have the results, or as the kids say today, you have the receipts to show that you've done it. So first of all, kudos. And I got one more question for you. And that is this.
Okay.
Now imagine that, there you are, and you encourage people to go ask people questions and basically, do X, Y, and Z and get out there and, okay, great. So you're minding your business, you're running companies as you are now. Let's say a young person, maybe they've been in the company for 2 months or 3 months or 6 months or whatever, rolls up on you and asks you out to lunch. And then you go out to lunch and you're like, okay, kid, this young kid asked me out to lunch. You go out to lunch and she asks you, the young person says, can you tell me how I should go about building up my own network? Specifically, what should I do here in the company, outside the company, to build up my network? What would you tell her?
You never can know too many people. And I believe you have to make it part of your brand, your vision, to call or talk to at least one friend, mentor, classmate, family member, teammate, etc., to cultivate a strong relationship. You just put on your calendar, this week I'm going to talk to Joe and Frida, and you just pick out a day and you try and make it happen. Sometimes you get so busy it doesn't happen, but if you don't put it on your calendar, it'll never happen. And as you'll know, when you need them, they'll be there for you when you cultivate these strong relationships. Because otherwise, if you only call people when you need something, in some ways people just think, well, you're just a user, and you don't want to be known that way. You want to be the type of person that they know cares about them as well. And I always believe, even when I call them to ask about them. How are you doing? What's going on? And in the days of COVID now, you just, how are you doing? You're safe?
Right.
All those kinds of things.
Right.
And so cultivate the relationship as if this person is one of your best friends, and treat them that way. But on top of that, you need to use things like LinkedIn and other online tools, which can be extremely useful in expanding your network. Because I use them. I had people sending me stuff, I mean, all over the world. I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and add them. But they sometimes propose some things that you would have never thought of. But at the same time, when you should participate in that environment on a regular basis. It's a wonderful environment to get notoriety in terms of how you think and how you thrive by posting online if appropriate. Now, this whole social media thing, I'm a fan to a degree that it is environment for the positive, but I'm not a big fan of people tearing people down and bullying in it. So I just put that as a caveat. But I'd also consider knowing who are the best search firms, some call them headhunters, in your industry, and begin having talks with them about your career as well, because they can help you. and help you grow into new jobs when you're ready. So, I mean, I'll just give the example of kind of my experience with this, a little beyond that, that is an example. When I was transitioning from both the military and to civilian sector, a search firm, which is actually run by a fellow graduate who placed me with Leo Burnett.
Okay.
And later, as I transitioned, I talked about this transition from McDonald's into medical retail, a very well-established search firm, one of the best at placing CEOs. Spencer Stewart placed me in a wonderful opportunity that later became an opportunity for being a CEO. However, all of my roles since then have been through my networks and mentors.
Oh, okay.
And so what I would tell you again is please be open to all of the possibilities. But you should nurture all of them because different dynamics are going on at different times in each one of these pods. So remember, you've got this close network of mentors, classmates, etc., that you're cultivating your relationship. You've got these online tools, LinkedIn, etc., where you can provide people insights and the kind of brilliant thinking you have, or where you focus your time. And then there is this idea of making sure you are connected to, I would say, anywhere from 2 to 5 really good search firms that are in your space.
Okay.
Have a relationship with them because things are always happening and changing. Sometime with you. I mean, you could be working on a project and the budget gets cut and it's like, oh my God, what do I do? But having at least 2 or 3 chances, because LinkedIn also has a component of it that you can tap into for search firms.
Okay.
But having 3 different buckets that you can tap into if you run into something like that allows you at least a chance. But having none means you're kind of stuck at the moment. No job. How are you going to eat? All those kinds of things. And so remember, luck is being prepared when the opportunity presents itself. And so, somebody says they got fired, but they got lucky and got this job. Well, no, they probably built a network. In this case, like in my day, we didn't have these online tools.
Right.
It was kind of whether it was your network and then it was a search firm. You have 3, there are 3 buckets here. And take the time, even if you just put on your calendar a half an hour a week, do it, because it's too easy to skip. You get tied up in other things. And the issue is this is an insurance policy. It's an insurance policy in a host of ways. It's an insurance policy for your career. It's an insurance policy when you have tragedy and something happens and you need help. And it's an insurance policy that you can also be a person who nurtures and helps others. Because I'm a believer that having all these networks and not helping others is a travesty. And so I turn people on to people I know. I go, okay, I know Susan or Johnny that does this. I'll call them up and let them know. I just did this, for example, with some work I'm doing with the COVID situation. I have a guy that is looking to help wounded warriors get jobs. He does drones. He has a program for them to get certified, all those kinds of things. And guess what? I knew and know people over at Wounded Warrior Project. Years ago, when I was the CEO of LCA Vision, we put together a program where we did the wounded veterans and their primary caregivers' eyes for free to the tune of about 3.5 in-kind gift. And so I called them up, knew some folks still there, and it turns out one of my classmates is in a big role there, and he and I have known each other since Pee Wee football in Northern Virginia. And then we were at West Point together, and I had a talk with him yesterday. We hadn't even talked in a while, but I set up a guy who is a partner of ours that has all these neat devices and things to help deal with COVID, but can also help support both entities, his looking for a talent base and a talent base that's looking for places where they can actually thrive, because flying a drone, you can be in a wheelchair. As long as your hands and eyes are okay, you can do that stuff. And there's some other opportunities. But this literally just happened. Yesterday was the call that we put together. It took us 2 weeks to do it. But the fact of the matter is I not only encourage you to prepare yourself, but I think if you're truly a leader in this whole idea of building networks and being empathic and doing the right things for yourself and humanity, is also use it to help others. And so I'm a major believer that you have to do both.
Wow. Well, Dave, you have once again knocked it out of the park. I love, you gave, you really personalized this whole network thing. And it's clear to me that long before probably the term networking was out there in the world, for you, you were probably always, it is clear, reaching out to people, engaging people with their knowledge, becoming that interested person. What's the old saying? That people will be interested in you when they see that you're interested in them. And it seems like that's what you have done. And of course, now that world has morphed into the world of networking and all these tools. But the biggest tool people have for networking is themselves, getting out there, engaging with people. And you have really done great kind of laying out the process. Again, I encourage folks, go back over, take the notes, and then start doing the things he's talking about. Just start doing it. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn the right way. Make sure your social media presence is the way it needs to be. All those things, start projecting, start asking, start getting engaged with people, ask questions, involve yourself, volunteer. All these things expand your network. And, everyone I know who's successful, every single person I know who's professionally successful has got a really robust network. I personally don't know of anyone who's really professionally successful who does not have a very robust network. And I think it's required. It's because again, you can't win on your own. So thank you, Dave. Thanks so much for your time. And if you have anything else you want to say to the good young talent of Catapult Leaders, you can now, or I will let you get back to your busy day.
Well, again, I want to thank you for allowing me to participate in this. I'm a believer that we have to nurture our younger folks and prevent them from stepping on landmines unnecessarily. And I have a little keyword that you mentioned that I hope will activate them to do things. Everybody knows about Nike sportswear and shoes and all their things, but their motto or their brand is just do it. And that's really the catalyst for doing what you just said, is getting in the mindset, I have to just do it. Because nobody's going to do it for you. And if you don't do it, you just won't have it. And so it has to be something that you build in your framework of your vision and your plan. And then you have to work it. You have to just do it. And I'm not saying you stop everything and get paralyzed by it, but you integrate it into the way you do things. And I say, again, you need to be open to all the possibilities. So with that, I, again, appreciate you having me on, and God bless and be safe to everyone out there.
You've listened to Catapult Leaders, Conversation with Leaders. Special thanks to David Thomas.
Be sure and go to catapultleaders.com so that you can apply to the Catapult Leaders program if you are a college student or grad student or a recent graduate. If you are a company leader looking to up-level your company by hiring outstanding new employees, please go to catapultleaders.com and contact us. Let's go.